Smart. And then Keegan, I think, do you have permission to record already? So
I did. I just clicked the button. It says that it's recording.
Okay, cool. I guess because you're a co-host, I didn't have to give you permission. Okay, I think you're good to go. I'm gonna spotlight you.
Ooh, that's me.
Here we go.
All right, everyone. Let me share my screen here. Hi. Thanks for coming, everyone. My name is Keegan Good. I am a full-stack web developer. I work mostly with Python and JavaScript, Django and React, respectively. I've been writing code for almost 3 years, and I've been using Sass for about 2. I started with Ruby on Rails back in 2018, but then I switched to Python when I took the full-stack boot camp at PDX Code Guild in Portland, Oregon. I graduated from that in February of 2020, and I've been really involved with the Code Guild ever since. I now teach their intro to programming class, the Programming 101 and 102, and help people get ready to start the full stack bootcamp now. So today we're going to talk about Sass, and writing some syntactically awesome style sheets, which is what the acronym stands for. We're going to get into how to install it, how to compile Sass into CSS. And I'm going to try to, I have got way too many examples and I'll probably run over my time. I got about, 50 minutes until 6 o'clock. So it'll probably be like a little bit more than an hour that I'll be talking at you. I'll try to leave some room for questions. My final example will probably be a lot of copy pasting because I'm going to build up a bunch of stuff and then do some examples with it. I'm also going to show how to override Bootstrap like I was talking about as we were chatting and just kind of do some, just really basic Bootstrap overrides. Including colors. I'll read you the color theme, which is, I think that's a big one. And like the fonts and stuff like that. But let's talk about what Sass is. All right, what is Sass? It's a CSS preprocessor. And what this means is that you write Sass syntax, and then you'll have the compiler, right? You'll run it through the compiler, and the output will be CSS, right? It'll put all your selectors together. It'll put everything parent selectors, all that kind of stuff. It builds it for you. It also adds a lot of really cool style sheet features, right? You can write functions, which will generate styles. You can nest your selectors together. You can create mixins, which are like reusable bits of styles that you can actually give parameters and pass arguments to, so like if you're setting up like Flexbox or something, you can pass all the individual values to it and it'll compile differently for whatever selector you call that with. And there's a bunch more stuff. I'm going to talk about a few more things, but I'm not going to get into like everything, right? I'm just going to get you started with it and kind of show what I've been using for a while. So there's 2 syntaxes for Sass, as we were kind of talking about at the beginning here. The original indented syntax is sometimes just called Sass, right? It looks kind of like this. You can see it looks a lot like CSS, right? All the attributes are kind of the same. We got all these @ signs in here, which I'll talk about. But with the Sass syntax, we notice that we don't have any curly brackets and we don't have any semicolons, right? So this is the original Sass syntax. It uses the .sass extension, and it uses indentation rather than curly brackets to lay out its selectors. Right, and also uses no semicolons. So you can assume that the end of a line is where that attribute ends. Right, the other syntax is SCSS, which is a sassy CSS, as some people call it. And this one looks a lot more like CSS, right? It's got the curly brackets, it's got the semicolons, and this is the most popular syntax. This is what most people will use. This is the one that I'm going to be using. It's the one that I prefer. Right, it uses the .scss extension. And it's basically a superset of CSS, right? The docs even say, with a few small exceptions, if it's valid CSS, then it's valid SCSS. Right, and I haven't really come across anything yet that hasn't worked in terms of writing CSS in my SCSS. Right, so that's my presentation there. Right, so over here I've got my this is the Sass website. I've got it full screened, but we can see there's not much here in terms of the homepage. To get right to it. So we're going to go to install and get this installed. All right, there are a couple applications that you can use. I've never used any of these. I've always just used the command line tools And there is even like a VS Code extension that will compile Sass for you, but it's a little bit dated in terms of the syntax that it accepts. So I'm going to be using this node npm install command to get that running. All right, we'll go through that here in a sec. So on my next screen over, I've got my VS Code window. And I'm just gonna dive right in. I'm gonna get it installed and start writing some stuff here. So just real quick, I did do some setup. I've got a folder of images, which hopefully I'll get to my final example here. It might be a lot of copy pasting, but I'll work through everything before I get into that. And then I've got a bunch of HTML in here, like a bunch. I've got some Bootstrap components and some stuff that I made up, navbar, and some other things like that to show some different examples. And I'll be targeting that with my styles here to get that styled up. Full screen this too. So I'm going to open up my terminal here. Close that out. And I'm going to do that npm install -g sass. I'm going to install it globally. And it's already installed on my machine, so this should just say that it's already installed. And that's groovy. So now we're all set up. That's all you need. Right, the Sass is installed. The command line tool is ready to use. So I'm going to come over here to my file tree here and create. I'm going to create an index.scss. And let's just write some Sass here. So let's say I had like a container. And so if I had something inside this container, right, if I use CSS, I'd have to, if I wanted to target that inner thing, say I had like a box or something like that, I'd have to write container and then .box, right, to target that. And if anyone that's written any amount of CSS can know that this becomes a pain in the butt really quick, which is where Sass really shines here. So instead of doing that, we can nest this selector together, and we'll do box inside. Right, so this will target the box inside of the container, or all boxes, right? All divs, or all elements with the class of box within this class of container. All right, so I'll just set like a background color to slate gray or something. And so now I've got a little bit of nesting going on here. I'm going to save that, and we'll compile this CSS into, or this SCSS into CSS now, right? So the command to do this is Sass. And there's two ways to do this. You can either compile a single file. You can do one Sass file into one CSS file, or you can do an entire directory, right? So you can target a whole directory, and it'll find all the Sass files within it and compile them. And then you can choose which directory it will output to. And I'll probably be doing the latter, even though I'm probably only going to be working with one main file. I'll make like a Sass directory and just put all my styles in there. So to do just one file, all I'd have to do here is type the file I want to compile, a colon, and the file I want to compile into, right? So the target. And this is all it takes. Right, so when I hit enter, it's going to find that SCSS file and generate some CSS stuff. Right, we see it generated two files. We'll get to this map here in a second, but when I click index.css, we can see it created container and box. Right, so it made that CSS for me, and it kept my color in there for that as well. Now it also generated this scss.map, and these map files are just these are like almost JSON-esque. They might even be JSON, but these are used to link up the SCSS files, like where the styles come from in the SCSS files, in terms of the overall layout of your styles, so that when you open up your dev tools, it can tell you what line and what file your style came from. Right? So you can upload these in production, and it'll basically just be like if you had 100 CSS files, it'll tell you where each one came from. So I don't want to generate these for now because I'm not going to be doing anything with it. So I can add a flag to this. I'm going to delete that. And I can add a flag to this command. Right? I'm going to hit up, get back to that, which is -- no source map. Right, so this will, if I run this now, it'll still generate my CSS, but it will not generate my map. So I'll be running it that way. And also, I'm going to be adding another flag here, which is the watch flag. Right, this one's really important and really cool. So instead of having to run after every time I save, right? So if I come up here and let's make a change here, I'll make a variable and I'll say BG color, and this will be slate gray. Right, so I made this variable using a $sign. That's how we do it in Sass here. And now we can come here, and instead of slate gray here, we can replace that with our variable. All right, now I'm gonna recompile with my watch command here. All right, we can see that it compiled successfully. All right, we got it in green. There's no errors, and now it says that Sass is watching for changes. All right, so as soon as I did this, right, it still compiled properly. We see no change here because I didn't change my color, but we can see that variable did become that color. Right, it did find that value. And if I change that, right, if I change this to like green and save, right, it recompiles automatically, and my style gets updated. So so now I'm gonna create a SCSS folder and put that in there, that index. So we can see too that since I moved that, it deleted that file, right? Deleted the CSS file that it created, which is pretty neat. But I'm gonna do Control-C here to get out of this, if it'll let me. I'm going to kill my terminal, open that up again. Because I want to target this directory instead. Right, so I want to say Sass, and I'm going to do this with dot notation, right? So /, because I'm in this directory, right? I'm in Sass example. And I want to target the SCSS directory, a colon, and then I want it to compile. I want index.css to compile here in the example folder. So I just do /. And here I'm going to do no source map and watch. Right, so this is the full command that I'm just going to be running the entire time. I'm going to hit this. We'll get our index.css that still is in my main folder here. So a common practice here is to take your variables, right, and put them in a different file. Just if I had 100 variables, they would just take up a ton of space. And this is the beauty of using one of the beauties of using Sass is that you can modularize everything like this and import it. So I'm going to cut this and create a new file here. And I'll call this variables.scss. And I'll paste that variable in there. So now I want to target. I might actually move on to something else really quick after this. But I want to target, right? I want this variable to be in this file. But right now I'm getting an error that says this variable is undefined. So I need to import it. And traditionally using Sass, we would just use import at the @import directive, much like CSS. But in the most recent versions of Sass, they've actually introduced a new directive to avoid confusion with the @import. We'll still use @import for certain things like importing fonts and different stuff like that. But I'm going to use @use, right, to use a different module. And this takes a string afterwards, and it'll end with a semicolon. And now we can just import variables. Right, and I hit save. And this, so if I used @import, this would definitely work. However, with @use creates a namespace, right? And that namespace is it's the name of the file. So in order to access this variable within there, I have to type in variables.bgcolor in order to do this. Right now, and I save, we see it compile successfully. And then when we go back to our index.css, right, we get it compiled. I'll talk about that more in a second. But what we can see here too is that we now have two CSS files, right? It actually generated variables.css. And this really isn't what I want. So when I click this, right, we see that it's empty because all the variables in CSS just become the values that they contain. And so I don't want this to generate. And so what I have to do here is actually create what's called a partial. And so I'm going to right click and rename my variables.scss. And in front of it, we'll put an underscore. And that's all it takes. Right, so we see down here, it deleted variables.css, right? Because now it's just importing that into index, right? Since I made that partial. Right, so that we'll still get the same result. If we look at the CSS, same thing. So if I want to change this namespace, right, I can use as, and I could change it to like V to shorten it, and that would still compile successfully. Or if I wanted to just pull in everything from this variables file, I can use an asterisk. Right, so this will pull in everything. And now this, now we can see that v.bg color is not defined. And now we can just delete v. And when we save, there we go. Right, so this is what's different about the @use directive versus the @import directive, is that it creates that namespace, and you have to take care of that somehow. It can be really useful though, because if you want to, you know, especially when we pull in Bootstrap, Bootstrap has a variables.css in it, and so if we had the same namespace for both of those, they would conflict. Right, so we'll take care of that here in a second. Now I'm going to delete this here in a second, but I want to look at the index.html for a moment. Right, we can see that I'm importing index.css. This will be the only CSS file that I use. And I've also got some font awesome icons that I'll hopefully get to in my example later. That might be just a lot of quick copy pasting just to show. But I'll build up everything before then. I've also got a Bootstrap navbar and some color swatches and stuff. I want to pull in this div right here, which is just two. It's a div within a div. One's got the class of outer, one's got the class of inner. And I'm going to style this up a little bit here. So I'm going to come back to index, and we'll actually just call this outer and inner. And we'll come in here and create some other variables, right? We'll say, I have that open here? Yeah. Right. Outer box, BG, inner box, BG. All right, we're gonna make this dark slate gray. Inner box BG will be teal, and then I want to set inner box hover color, and this will be turquoise. Just some variables here. All right, we'll come back to index here. Save that. And let's do some styling here. So I want to create this outer box. We're going to make it height 200 pixels, width 200 pixels. And the background color will be outer box BG. Right, and it's I have access to this because I pulled this in with an asterisk. Otherwise, I'd have to use that namespace. And this will be inner box BG, just so I don't break it. And I have this running here over here. All right, so there's my outer box. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of margin to this. Maybe give it some margin. 2rem auto. Just center it. Give it a little bit of space at the top. Right, there's that. And now we're going to create this inner BG, or this inner div here, and we'll say height. I don't know, 100 pixels with 100 pixels. Background color of inner box BG. And so that's teal. And now if I look at my CSS, right, I've got outer, class of outer, all that stuff is in there. And then outer, inner, I've got the inner stuff. That's one really cool thing about SCSS is its nesting. And what I can do here is actually target pseudoselectors too. So I've got my inner div here nested in there, but if I want to target the like the hover property of the outer div, I can use the ampersand and then put the pseudoselector that I want to target, right, at hover. And here we'll just make the background color. Oh, actually, I want this to be the inner one. I apologize. And so this is actually really cool. Let's do this background color, inner box hover. That's that variable I created before. And I've got this in the wrong spot, right? So if I wanted to switch this with CSS, I'd have to change, you know, the preceding selector, because I would have had outer colon hover. But now all I do is just grab this and move it into the nested inner div here. And when I look back at my CSS, right? It creates that for me. Oh, and if I go over to my example here, right, we get that hover effect. So something that's pretty neat here is that you can use this %sign and create little sections of reusable styles. So I'm going to call this pointer. Right, I just do it just like that. And I put this %sign in front, and this will create a reusable bit of style. And all I want to do here is just say cursor pointer. And this will put that attribute on whatever I target with this. And so now I can come into my hover, right? This is where I want that cursor pointer to show up. And I'll say at extend, oops, that needs to be all together, %sign pointer. Right, when I do that, and I look at my CSS, it didn't work. Oh, there it is. Weird. And I'm not sure why I created two. Don't know. But there it is, cursor pointer. Right, it's getting the same thing. And when I go over to my example, now we get that pointer when we hover. And so anything that I want to be able that I have hoverable like that, I can just add that extend to it. And that might not be the most robust example, but if you had like a bunch of buttons or something like that, where they all look the same except for maybe their color, right? You could apply the same set of styles to all of them by extending that section. So now what I want to do here, I want to add some more things to this. And I'm going to, I want like to, so I'm going to go back to my example. I want this box to be all the way in the center. So I'm going to do some flex box stuff to put that centered in the X and Y axes. I want to build, I want to make border radius happen for these things. I want to be able to customize the border radius. And I also want to be able to set these rectangles without having to specify the height and width. And I'm going to do this using mixins. So this is a really, really, really useful feature of Sass. So I'm going to create a new file, a new partial, and I'll call it mixins.scss. And I'm going to start out by creating the one to create rectangles. So I'm going to do at mixin to define my mixin. And this works a lot like a function, right? It's using at mixin, which is like writing, function before a JavaScript function or something. I'll call this rectangle. It takes some parentheses and the curly brackets. Inside the parentheses, you probably guessed it, I can pass some parameters. All right, so I'm going to pass, what I want this to do is if I pass one arg, it will create a square. Right, so it'll use that one argument for both dimensions, and then two args will create a rectangle. Right, height by width. So I want to set with height, and then the width. And the width, right? If I pass just the height, I want the default value of the width width parameter to be the height, same as the height. So the way I set this is with a colon, and then the value that I want. And in this case, it'll be the height. All right, so now all I do in here is set my CSS. I can say height, width, width, $sign. And that's it. Right, so now I can reuse this bit of code, this bit of style wherever I want. I'll come back to index, and here we see I've got height and width here and height and width here. So I'll use it in both spots. I need to pull in my mixins. So I'll say at use mixins as asterisk. So I just want them all. And now I can use the include. I'm going to move this down a little bit to give myself some more room. I'm going to use the at include directive to include that. And so I can include rectangle. And I'll delete height and width here. All right, and we'll make this 200 pixels. I'll pass just one because I want to create a square. Actually, let's pass two for now. We'll do 400 pixels. Oops. All right, so I've set both. That's the height and the width. And when I go back to my example, right, it's wider than it is tall. And now we can do the same thing for that inner div, right? Instead of 100 here, we can just say at include rectangle 100 pixels. And it'll look exactly the same. right, same thing. So now anytime I need to make a rectangle, I can use this @include rectangle mixin and do that. And I'll be using that more as we go through. So I want to create a couple more of these because I think they're really cool. Just real quick, I want to white is driving me crazy. Much better. So let's see. Let's make this a square too. And go back to our mixins. So I want to create one. The next one I want to create will target the flex side of things. Notes here. All right. So if flex row is desired, pass only the last 2 arguments. If flex column is desired, pass the first as well. All right, so we'll set this up much like the first, where it can work in more than one way. So I'll just call this flex. And in here, we're going to pass a few parameters, right? We're going to pass the direction that we want. And by default, this will be row. So if I don't pass it, it'll choose row by default. And I don't have to have this as a string because I'm using, I think it'll still work if you have it as a string. But since it's all CSS, you don't need it as a string. And then I'm going to pass align items. And this will be flex start. I think it's the thing for that. And then justify content. All right, so all this will do now is set my display to flex. Right, that'll be a given. And so if I don't pass anything, right, all these have default values, right? So if I don't pass anything, any arguments to this, it'll just be regular old flex row, right? It'll just give it flex. Flex direction will be the variable dir. Align items will be align items, and justify content will be justify content. All right, and this is all this is. So if we come back over to our index, now I can include. I have mixins already pulled in, so I can just come in here and include flex. And the outer one, I want that center box to be in the middle. So I'll say dir column. I guess I could do it either way. And then I'll say center. All right, that'll fill in those other 2. And I don't even think I need dir in there if I send it like that. All right, so now if I look back, we're centered. And if we look at the CSS, right, that outer div got all the flex stuff. Cool. So that's that. Now the last one I want to make one more, and this will do our border radius. And this one will be the most complicated because I want to have a bunch of different options here, right? So one argument for this one will set just the border radius, right? All the border radiuses. 2 args will set top and bottom, right? It's the top 2 corners and the bottom 2 corners will all be the same as each other. And then 4 args will set top left down right, or top right down left, right? Like all the other CSS selectors do. So I'll say @mixin border radius. And I want to set the top left, and the bottom left, the top right, and the bottom right. And I want some default values here. So if it's only 2, right, I want the bottom right and top right to be the same as the top left and bottom left. And if I only pass 1, I just want to use this top left. So this one by default will be null. And so now I can, this is going to take one of two paths, right? If bottom left is defined, it'll set more than one thing, right? I'll set all four border radius attributes. If not, I'll just set border radius. So I can use @if, right? I can do conditionals here. And I can say if not bottom left, right? If that's null, if I don't pass that, if I only have top left, then I'll set the border radius to the top left value, and that'll be it. Otherwise, I'm going to set border top left radius to top left. I'm just using a lot of autocomplete here. Border top right radius to top right. Border bottom left radius to bottom left, and border bottom right radius to bottom right. All right, we'll save, and this is it. So this is the one. You can see this is pretty complicated, right? We got a bunch of different things we're passing in here, and it allows us to use this a bunch of different ways. So if I come over here, on this outer box here, I just want to say, what should we just do? I include border radius. And I just want this one to have a small amount of border radius on all sides. So I'll say, I don't know, 10 pixels. And when I save, there we go. All right, and if we look at our CSS, we can see that we got a border radius of 10 pixels on the outer div. Now I want to target this inner div too and give that some border radius. We'll do some cooler stuff with that. So we'll target the inner, and we'll say @include border radius. And here, let's make it 50%. Right, so we're still passing 1, so we can make it a circle real quick. But what if we don't want to make it a circle? What if we want to make it something a little bit funkier? I'll pass 2. We'll do like 10%. So this will set the top 2 corners to 50% and the bottom 2 corners to 10 border radius. And we'll get this kind of, I don't know, tab shaped thing. I don't know what you call it. Pac-Man ghost. So that's pretty cool, right? Just by adding one more number, I've customized that. And I haven't really had to add anything else. And if I look at my CSS, right, we got all 4 of those in there, all set. Right, so we've already reduced the amount of CSS we need by like at least 4 lines, if not more, probably more. So let's keep going, right? I can customize this further. So let's add a 10% here and a 50% here, right? This will target all 4 corners, and we'll get this cool like lemon shaped thing. All right, so this is a really nice way to use our mixins. And it's a fantastic way to make reusable styles here. Oops, wrong direction. So I'm going to comment this out now. We don't need that in there anymore. And then I'm going to pull in this navbar. So we're going to work with we're going to pull in Bootstrap now. And this is just a basic little navbar. I've deleted most of the stuff that comes with it. I just copied this off of the Bootstrap website. We can see it's got a BG primary, navbar dark, all that kind of stuff, with a few nav links. All right, so if I go back to my example, right, no, we haven't imported Bootstrap yet, so this looks like poop. So let's do that. I'm going to open up a new terminal here. And using npm, I'm going to say npm install Bootstrap. This will run and it'll install it. We'll get a node modules folder and we'll install it right in our project here. And let's just take a look at this real quick. So inside here we have Bootstrap. Inside here we have an SCSS folder. And if I click this, we get a ton of partials. And then at the very bottom we have Bootstrap Grid, Bootstrap Reboot, and Bootstrap itself. All right, so if I click on Bootstrap, we can see that it's just importing all those partials. And so when you import just Bootstrap, you get all those as well. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into SCSS, index.scss, and up here at the top, I'm going to say @use ... node modules bootstrap SCSS and then bootstrap, right? That very last one. And you don't need the SCSS at the end. And just doing this, just having this line gives us our bootstrap. So it pulls in everything except the JavaScript. I haven't done anything with the JavaScript portion of it. But so now we want to go in and, I want to customize this a little bit. I want to make this nav bar a little bit better looking. So if you look here, there's a variables.scss within the Bootstrap styles. So when I click this, we can see that there are just a ridiculous amount of variables that we can use. Right? And all these variables, I'm still scrolling. I'm at line 500, all the way down. It's like 1,200 lines of variables. All of these can be overridden to change Bootstrap. So if I find navbar, right, these are all the different things I can do to the navbar. I can change the padding, I can change the link padding, I can do a bunch of different stuff. And then there's also the navs, right? I can change nav tabs, nav links, all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna give a couple of variables here to override this stuff. Now the way we do this, right, we're going to be adding something. Traditionally, with the @import directive, all you would have to do is import your variables before Bootstrap, and it would just do it. But with the @use directive, it's a little bit different. So what we have to do here is come in here before the semicolon and use with, and then some parentheses. And this gives us a little like portal, a little gateway into the Bootstrap setup. I can give a new line here. And this will allow me to pass variables in here to override them. Right, so the first one I want to override is the navbar padding y. And then it's a colon. So this is set up like it's set up like a hash map, set up like a Python dictionary or JavaScript object, right? It's keys and values. And right for that variable, we're going to give the value. Let's just do 2rem. And not a semicolon, but a comma. And when I save that, all right, we got this nice fatty navbar up here. So let's keep cruising. Right, I want to override the font. So if I go into variables, that the variables here, and I look for find font. What is it? Font family. There it is. So this is the overall font family for the entirety of Bootstrap. So if you want to change your base font family, this is the variable for you. And we can go into index, paste. And actually, before I do that, I need to pull in some fonts. Right. So I'm going to go into my variables. And I have actually over here, I have some variables pulled up. Save. So what I'm actually going to have this. I'm going to have this pulled up behind the scenes so I can copy stuff in. I've just got a bunch of variables in here. So we'll see that in a second. And I'll copy this. This is just a Google font and put it over here. All right, I'm pulling in Open Sans and Railway. And then I'll set a couple. I'll do it above here. I'll set font primary. Oh, actually, here I have these in here as well. Down here. Right, I've got primary font and secondary font. And I'll explain all these variables as I use them too. So we can set those fonts, just utilizing those. And so let's come back over to index. And so we're going to pull in this variable and say primary font. Not a semicolon, but a comma. Right, and that's, I believe, Railway. And so when we go back to our example, oops, it's over here, but I need to change. We can see that we get a different font. Right, you can see the W is crossed like the Railway does. And that's how you override your font. And so if I want to customize this a little bit more, I'm going to create another partial in my CSS. We'll call this underscore navbar CSS. And I can target those nav links, because that's the class that those are, and I can give these some style. Right, so I want to say text transform uppercase and letter spacing 2 pixels. Not 2 pixels, but let's just do 0.25 rem. And when we look back, oh, I didn't. What? Oh, I didn't import my. That's what's going on here. So I need to import the navbar at use navbar. And I don't want to. It doesn't matter if I'm not going to be referencing everything in that, so I can just do it just like this with not, and I don't need to use as. Did I not save? Oh, I did nav links plural. That's what's going on. All right, so now we get capital and uppercase, the capital letters, and spaced out a little bit more. Now, what I want to do here is I want to change the font size, right? But I want to do this programmatically. So I'm going to come into my variables, and I'm actually going to grab a couple of these variables first. So I have up here, I have a couple maps laid out, right? I've got a base size set and a couple maps laid out. So these are the same thing as like our hash maps, right? It uses the key and the value. And this will give us access to these things, and I can refer to them just with the key. So I'm going to copy all these. Right, we see that we've got a base size of 16 pixels, and then that base size is used to calculate some font sizes. Right, multiplying by 2.2 gives us the large, 1.7 gives us the medium, and 1.1 gives us the small. And so copy these and come over here and do variables, and we'll paste that down here. So now what I want to do, I'm going to create a couple functions that will help me access these maps. I could just refer to them directly, but I want to make the syntax a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to create another partial called functions.css. And I just want to, I'm going to need my variables for this as asterisk. And I'm going to create a couple of functions for just getting those sizes. Right, these work just like normal functions. The syntax is almost identical. Let's say at function, and this I'll call this one get font size. And as a parameter, we'll pass the size that I want. And we're going to say at return. And so I'm going to return a value. And the value I'm going to return is going to be one of those map values, one of the values out of that map. So I'm going to say map get. This is a built-in function of Sass for getting values out of a map. And if I click it, right, we get the documentation for it. It says that it takes in the map and then the key that I want. So here I want font sizes. And the key is size. And I'll write one more. Function get font weight. This will be almost the same except with the weight. I could probably even make it one function maybe, but font weights and the weight. Semicolons here. Right, so this is these are done now. So now I'm going to go into my nav bar, and I'm going to import, not import, but at use functions as asterisk. I just want them in there, and now I can say font size. It will call get font size, and we'll pass it medium. And we'll say font weight. Let's just check that real fast. Make sure that worked. Right, much bigger font. If we change this to large, but even larger font. And so it's just using that map to get those values. But to me, this is a lot more readable, right? I'm getting the medium-sized font. And I don't have to worry about what that is. Right? I'm not typing. I don't have to go in there. And if I want to change that medium-sized font, it only exists in one place now. So I can go into font weight and say get font weight. And we'll do thin. And so that gives us a nice thin font up there. All right, so let's see. What do I want to do next? I'm going to set some, I'm going to set up my colors now. So that's good with that. We'll close this nav bar. Now with colors, that's set in Bootstrap using this theme colors map. Right, so we see that this is where we get our primary, secondary, success, info, warning, danger, light, and dark classes, right? All those. And those are used for like our BG primary, our button primary. All those classes will pull from these values. So I'm just going to copy this whole thing, except for I won't need the map merge. Let me just copy this whole thing. Back into index. And now in my Bootstrap, I can say theme colors. Right, and this is a map. So it uses the parentheses, and I'll just paste those in there. Right, but this is not going to do. This is going to give me problems, right? Because I don't have any variables called primary. So I'm gonna comment this out for a moment, and then pull in my Bootstrap stuff. So I've got a big section down here at the bottom of Bootstrap components. That goes all the way down. I just grabbed everything that used these classes from the Bootstrap website, and we can see we've got boom, bunch of Bootstrap stuff, some buttons, some loading bars, etc., warning or alerts, and I've got this custom over here as well, right? I'll be adding a custom color here in a second. So if I want to override these colors, I just need to reset those variables. Oops, keep doing that. So in index, right, I'm gonna pull this back in, and what I'm gonna do is come in here and highlight these and say custom, right? And I'll define these variables here in a minute. Let's do this. Oops. We'll just grab those and come over to variables.scss, and we'll paste like this. So grab too much there. Thank you, VS Code. And now actually here, I don't want to, I did all for naught because I have these actually in my variables, right? So I've got some bunch of colors pulled in here, and I can just grab these, right? So if you just set these variables, right? I've got all these set to different colors. I'll just come in and grab those, copy, and we'll do paste. Right, and this fixes it, right? Now it finds all those variables we compiled successfully, and if we go look at our example, we just rethemed the colors for Bootstrap. Piece of cake. All right, and if I come in here and actually, I'll just grab this other set too. I'll put those below. Right, and it's just as easy as that. If I want to retheme my entire thing, I just redefine those variables, and there we go. And I think that's super dope. So now what I can do, so these will all be using, if I look at the HTML, right, these will all be using those classes here. So button warning, button danger, and I have button custom, right? I had all those custom ones. And this will allow me to actually come into Bootstrap here. I actually have it over in my variables. As I thought I did. There it is. And I'll pull this in. Now this is using another built-in function from Sass, adjust color. Right, and this one, if I say adjust color, doesn't give it to me. So this basically gives me the ability to target a color. That'll be the first argument, and then it gives me access to the hue, saturation, lightness, alpha, and RGB values for that color. So I can customize those and change them, and it'll make those adjustments. Right, so this one is adding 90 degrees to the hue, 50% of the saturation, and 20% of the lightness to make it a little lighter. And this should be a comma. Wait. Actually, this is in the wrong spot. It should be in variables. All right, so that's what that's doing. And we'll see this in a second. I'm going to come into my index.scss, into the theme colors, and I'm just going to say custom. Right, I'm going to add a custom color, and that will be pulled from the variable custom color. And this is oh, I don't have a comma after dark. And this is all it takes. So when I go back, there's my custom color. right? And it adds them for all of it, right? So this is alert dash custom, right? This is button dash custom. And so that it gives us access to those Bootstrap classes to add our new colors in, right? Button dash custom. And I think that's awesome, right? That is so Bootstrap of a way to do it, right? You don't have to worry about anything else like that. And on these, right, we get BG success, BG info, all that kind of stuff. Cool. So now what I want to do is pull in these color swatches. Right, I've got these swatches in here, and these I don't think these will even show up right away because they don't have any style, they've got nothing. But they're numbered, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so I want to use my custom colors, to style these, right? To give them color. And so let's just start off by giving these a little bit of beginner style here. So I'm going to come in here and target my some room that has a swatches class around that. And for that, we'll @include rectangle of 5rem. Oh, sorry, not 5rem, but oh, I guess I don't even have it on there. That would look in the wrong place. So we'll do @include. We're going to include flex. Right, we want these to be centered in the middle horizontally. So we'll say justify content center. Right, so it'll be row and justify content center. That'll shift everything into the middle. And then we'll do swatch. And for now, we'll just do background color, black. @include rectangle. Right, my rectangle mix in. Here we'll make this 5rem. And we'll @include border radius. And we'll make it that cool shape. So we should have something now. There we go. There's those swatches. Let's give them some margin. This will give some padding. Cool, so that looks a little better. Now what I want to do, I want to come in here and programmatically style these using Sass, right? So theoretically, I could, if I wanted to change the color, use those BG primary, BG success classes. But I'm going to do this instead using a loop, a Sass loop. So in my variables, close out functions, close out mixins too. In my variables, I'm going to come back over here. I've actually created a list, right? So this is a list in Sass. These could all be on one line, but they're just separated with commas. There's a semicolon at the very end. And I'm just putting all of my colors in there, right? Under a variable named custom colors. And this is what I'll use to make this work. So down here, still within swatches, this is where I'll do my loop, right? So since I have these labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm going to be able to target those numbers and do this programmatically. So in index, I'm going to write a for loop. @for, we need to set the variable, which we'll call I. And now we need to set the range. So from 1 through length of the custom colors list, we're going to loop. And so it'll loop. So in Sass, our indices start at 1. I don't know why. It pains me, it hurts. But it does work out nicely in this case because I can now target swatch dash, and now that number, right? I have swatch 1, swatch 2, swatch 3. And so that number is represented by this variable. And so I can do interpolation with a pound sign and curly brackets to put that value in there. And that becomes the selector for that particular numbered swatch. So now all I want to do is set that background color. And I want to grab the color at index I from my custom colors list. And I do this using a built-in function in Sass called nth, which gets the nth item of my list here. See if I can do this. Yeah, so it could take in the list and then n. So the list here will be custom colors, and n will actually be I. And that's all that it takes. So to style all those swatches, what custom colors? Custom colors. Did I not do that right? Oh, I didn't. That's what I did. I didn't copy this over. So this happened to me so many times working this out too. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, I'm working in 2 different files at the same time. All right, so I copied that over. There we go. It compiled successfully. We'll go back over to my example, and boom, there's all the colors. All right, so it did a loop and went through them all. And now they're styled using my custom colors here. All right, so if I go back over to my index.css, not only are we going to have all the Bootstrap junk in there, right? Now this file is huge. This is probably like 10,000 lines now, right? This is all Bootstrap still so far. So if I go down and I look for swatch, there we go. And now we have swatch 1, swatch 2, swatch 3, and it just has those colors in there. Right, so that's pretty neat, I think. Saves you a little bit of writing, saves you a lot of space. So I've got a few more minutes here. My intention here was to use all these colors now and stuff to build up a little example. And I'm probably just going to paste in most of these styles because I don't have time to write them all out. They're all pretty straightforward, and I've already used all the stuff that I've been doing with it. The one thing I'm missing here is my last color scheme. So what I've done here in this big block is actually design an entire color scheme centered around one color. Right, so I set a base color and then used that color and adjusted it a bunch of times to create my other colors. And so I'm going to copy these over. And I'll put that below there. Oh, and this will give me a whole new color scheme. Okay, so let's come back over to my HTML. And I'm going to pull in this profile card div stuff. And you can take a look at the, I'll give everyone a link to the, I meant to do it beforehand, but I'll give everyone a link to the GitHub repo that all this code is stored on, and you can look through it and play around with it if you want. But basically it's just a div and it has a couple nested things. It's going to be like a little profile, like a little card describing me. And so let's go in here. Let's go to, we'll close out the Bootstrap variables. And we'll close all this. And we'll create a new partial. Call it profile card.css. And we'll target that profile card class. So I'm going to come over to my, right, we can see it's just junk right now. I have a bunch of variables set aside for this. So I'm going to grab these. Again, I'm probably just going to be copy and pasting most of this. So I'm running low on time. That's why. Right, and this is just, I'm adjusting some colors. I'm just setting, basically, I'm using all the colors, like the custom success, all the custom colors I made to do all these variables here. And so I'll come back over here. Okay, so for the actual profile card, right, I'm going to be using some of my, these are my custom mixins, right? I'm going to be setting a background image and positioning it, giving it some padding, and giving it a box shadow. And this saves me so much time to do this, right? Because I just come over here and I mean using the mixins, which I'll need to pull in. Use mixins as asterisk. I think that's all I need there. Oh, I need variables too. At use variables. Go back. What? Oh, I need to import it into index. Right, all of them will need to be included because they're all partials. So I'll say use profile card. There we go. Go back, and I've got the beginnings here. So that's my background image. Inside that, I am going to have a panel. Let's come back over here, actually. Right, my panel is nested within that div. Again, it's just a rectangle. I'm adding some background color, and here I'm adjusting this background color with a little bit of alpha. Right, I'm reducing the alpha 0.8, so it'll be a little bit see-through, actually quite a bit see-through. And I'm adding an inset box shadow, which will be pulled like up with these pixel things here. And then I'm also setting the letter spacing. So down in profile card. Inside my profile card, I just paste that. We'll save. Right, so there's that darkish kind of background. That inset box shadow is pretty cool, I think. Gives it that Misty Mountains kind of feel. Sorry, I actually want to be over here. And I'm going to create a circle that'll have my face in it. Right, so this will be like my introducing myself. All this is setting the rectangle, right, to make it 200 by 200 pixels by 200 pixels. We're giving it a border radius of 50%. Again, setting a background, an alpha background using adjust color. And then we've just got a variable for the border color. Right, so we'll kind of pull that over, paste that in. I apologize for not having enough time to write all this out, but you get the picture, right? We've already seen what these mixins will do. If we come over here, we get this nice circle. And if I come back into index.html, then we can set images, /images, headshot. There we go. Hi. So that's looking pretty good. Come back over to my styles here, and I'll grab the next section. So the next section is going to be a little bio section, and it's going to have some stuff inside of it. It's going to have a name, my name. It's going to have a couple titles. Now this section I want to talk about a little bit if I have a few minutes. What I can do here, I'm using another extend, right? So I'm setting that up here. I'll grab that over first. And this basically just sets the font color, the font weight, and a little bit of margin for each of these title things that I'm doing. So I'll copy that. Copy. Over here. Profile card. We'll put that at the top. I guess I could put it in variables too, but here we'll just have it be. Oh, I'm missing my font colors. So that's in variables, font colors. Those will have to be below my colors, so we'll put it there. All right, nothing too much has changed yet. But let's copy those styles here. Oops, back over here. Panel bio. So we'll start with the bio section. Bio. There's this kind of greenish background. Oops, I want to be back over here. We'll grab the rest of this here. We'll grab the name. We'll just start off with that. Nothing much to see here. We're just setting the font weights and font sizes and the font color. This will be inside the bio. Save that. That'll set my name. Now these full stack developer and autodidact things are the titles. All right, so one is a little bit larger, one's a little bit smaller. And we can see here that I'm using that extend title, right, to set the color and the font weight and the margin for both of these. And now if I look at the HTML for that section, right, what you can do here, where is it? Here. So we have the class of title, and then another class of title-main and title-sub. Right, so it starts off with title, and then it has title-main. And if I go over to profile card, we can see, back over here actually, that when I do this, I'm using the .title class. And then in here, I'm saying ampersand -main. And what this is doing is saying, you can see it's targeting title-main. Right, so it's still using, since it's nested within this, it's still using .title, but it's attaching -main as well. Right, so I think that's really cool, right? We don't have to write out the entire thing again. And so let's copy this. I want to I'll copy this over and find this in the actual CSS here. Say title main. And so what it did here is targeted title-main and title-sub with those classes. And so that's another really cool nesting thing with Sass, right? And there's the title itself for that set aside piece. So let's look at wait, am I on the right screen or not? Look at this, what this looks like. Got a nice green. Sorry, I want to be back over here. Apologize for hopping around so much. And the rest we've sort of seen, right? The rest is, I'm just going to kind of plop this in there, right? This is something we really haven't seen, is this include flex, which we haven't seen it without any parameters, right? So all this will do is set display flex. That's all it'll add to this. So let's copy that portion. Here. I need a closing curly bracket. Got some my icons there. Let's make those a little bit bigger by styling the social icon. Right, I've got a nice hover in here. I'm grabbing that extend pointer to get that pointer icon, which I think I'll actually need to pull that into this file's variables. Paste. Yep. So I had that in index. All I'm going to do is move this pointer portion over to variables so that it can find it in the other file. Oops. If we look now, right, we've got some style on there. We need to set the font size and stuff. Apologies. Oops. Sorry for jumping around so much. I have got 3 desktops set up. I thought I set that. Is that not, did I not grab that? A second. Save. Font size large. It should be doing it. What? Not sure why it's not setting that font size. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong place. Hang on. Oh, it's still there though. Anyway, I'm going to keep on moving. I don't really have time to debug that right now. I just want to grab the rest of this, the skills. Put that in there too. All right, so this is all the same stuff, right? I'm just using the rectangle mix in, flex, and we pull it in. What? Maybe my nesting is messed up somewhere. Oh, I bet you that's what it is. Nab it. Yeah, it's like, what I'm going to do is just snag this whole thing. All right, I've already written it all in there anyway. So we'll just do that. There we go. That's what I want it to look like. And there we go. Right. So if we look at the actual like the actual styles, they're so much smaller than they would be. Right. All of this flex and rectangle stuff would add so many lines of our styles. This extend stuff could be a ton. And if we look at this, the CSS, right, for all of it, it is a lot more, right? Because it's adding all that in there. So this is really cool, I think. Now, the final thing I want to do before I take a couple of questions, I have to be out of here by 6:30 at the very latest. Thanks for sticking around and seeing everything that I had to present here, albeit a little bit rushed. I have a class to teach at 6:30. So what I want to do now, right? So remember, I had all of my colors themed around a single color, but it organized all these a little bit differently. So this base color is styling all of my colors. So what I can do here is come in and change that base color. And when I recompile, it changes my entire theme. Right, and what I want to do actually is come over here and change my background here. I have a couple other pictures. Right, I can just do clouds. Voila. Right, and Bootstrap, all the Bootstrap stuff changes too. So it's retheming is as easy as just changing one color if you do it this way. Right, I can come in here and change this to space. Change this to I'll comment these out actually. Man, I wish I had this. This will work. No, custom color. Let me delete that one in there. There we go. And we got a third theme. All right, if we come in and change it back to this one. Yeah, fourth theme. So it's really cool. I do have a couple minutes for questions if anybody has any.
Keegan, I only have one question. I noticed that you used only classes and no IDs. Is that something specific with Sass, or can you use it? Okay.
No, I just chose to do it that way. Normally when I do that, I use IDs for stuff that only happens once. So like probably for that profile card, if that was the only one, I would probably use it for that. Or like, I usually use it for like layout stuff, like main content and the nav bar. I might do that way.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the way that I roll with that. I read a lot about the debate on that kind of stuff too, going with this, and there's a ton of debate on it, and I don't think there's really a good way. There's no one answer that will.
I just didn't know if it was something specific with Sass that you had to use, like reference a class versus an ID, but
no, not at all. That's totally preferential to your own personal style, I think.
So the IDs would work in the exact same way as the classes when.
Yes. Okay. Yep, and I think let's just do it real quick. If I change that to $, and this to ID. Right, no errors, no problem with the styles. If I look at this, then we get $, profile card before everything.
Sweet, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some cool stuff. I was wondering about responsive design, like if there are any sort of ways that you can, maybe it's just the nested selectors that made me think of it in the first place, because you already do that with like media queries.
Totally.
Have you looked into that?
You definitely can. Like at the very bottom here, like if I wanted to make my profile card, I could just do like what is it, media, and you just put it right in there.
So you can kind of do it in verse. You could like for whatever you've already selected, you could do the the media query inside of there, and so the other way where the media query kind of like in CSS, the media query has to be on the outside?
You can do it either way. And really a good way to do it, the way that a lot of people do it, is to write a mixin that handles all of your media queries, right? And then you can just pass in the breakpoints that you want for those. And there are actually add-on libraries that are super built out for doing that. There's one in particular that's like really, really good for doing that. Let's see, min with, I don't know, 500 pixels. This design right now is not responsive at all. And we'll do profile card border 4 pixels solid red. That'll look good. And then let's see if I can do this here. Let's just zoom in. Nope, don't know how it works. Should be. Nope, it didn't work. I don't know. I did play around with that, but it got really out of control to make it manageable. Oh, I think I might have changed it in the wrong. I didn't. I did this sea of Bootstrap CSS here. Jesus. Yeah, it's lost somewhere in the void.
Oh yeah, I was just kind of curious.
I do recommend looking into it. Mixins are the way to go for that, because then you can just add include that mixin and give it the breakpoint and the styles that you want. And actually with the mixins too, there's a whole bunch of more advanced selectors. So like if you go into the docs, I've only got a couple minutes here. I have to go pretty soon. But if you go to documentation, you can look at the at rules. You can look at content. Where is it? Of course, I'm not going to find it right now. Flow control. Nope. There's an at content directive where you can actually you can build the mixin that you want, like the media query, and then as the argument, you actually pass the selector. So you actually pass and it'll put whatever you pass into it into the content, and you just directive, and you just put it in there like that. Here, like Sass at content directive. So we're gonna get the official Sass version, but whatever. All right, so you can do this like you can set a mixin, apply to IE only or whatever, and then at content, right? And then you would do add include the mixin name, and that would become your selector, right? And then you could pass it logo, and logo would take up, it would become the content within here. And so that allows you to apply to it, like, and that's so that they use that for media queries and doing it like that.
That's cool stuff. Yeah. Anna asked about the GitHub link.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Drop that in the chat before you have to go.
Yes, I can do that right now.
I'm also, for people who came late or something or want to watch it again, there's our YouTube channel. I'm going to publish this probably sometime tomorrow, maybe next week.
This is the repo for it. I'll put it in the Zoom chat. Actually, I think I have to stop sharing to get that up. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. That's all I got. Thanks everyone for hanging out and watching. Looks like we've lost a few in the meantime, but there's that link.
Everyone had to go to everyone who had a night class had to leave like right at 6.
Yeah, that's fair. I got to go right now too. I've got 3 minutes to open my class. So.
All right, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for hanging out.
Awesome presentation.
Thanks. Feel free to hit me up on GitHub or LinkedIn if you want to ask me more about it. I'd be happy to talk more about it. I've been using Sass for a while, but like I said, I've only really been using the nesting stuff for the majority of it. Like this presentation has taught me a lot about Sass. So I'll be adding these things later on.
All
But yeah, I go play around with it. It has really changed the way that I write styles, and it makes it a lot more fun to write. So
It makes it fun.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it makes it fun. Period. Exactly. It makes it fun at all. And this is just
I
one.
can see how it pays dividends down the line. Like the more and more code you write,
Absolutely.
like the longer those compiled CSS files were getting and the more ridiculous they looked. Of course, like putting all of Bootstrap in there is going to make it long anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, and
it's
there's lots of cool stuff too, like that Bootstrap configuring the Bootstrap portion of it. You can actually take that entire Bootstrap configuration and put it in another file, and then you can use the @forward directive, which will not only import that module but also include all of those things that you imported into it. So it works more like the @import directive, like that, and so you can separate it out even more. Like that Bootstrap configuration could be in a separate file, and then in your index.scss you would just @use bootstrap config or whatever it was, and you can modularize it even farther. So there's tons of stuff you can do with it, and I'm only hitting the tip of the iceberg too, because there's built-in modules to Sass and built-in lots of other stuff. So go check out the docs and play around with it. But I gotta go. Everybody have an awesome night. Thanks, Pete, for putting this on, and feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn and stuff.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Heck yeah. Peace out, y'all.
Later. All right.